right, welcome everybody. Welcome introverts, I should say. This is the Hybrid Introvert Podcast, episode 1. So this is our first ever shot at this, and hopefully we do well enough that you come back and we can put a couple more out. My name is Vitri Trong. I am the co-author of the book Introvert to Ambivert, Building People Skills for Success in Business and in Life. With me is my co-author, Edwin Palsma. Also with me is Jeb Richard, author of Hybrid Self, Adapt the Right Blend of Introvert and Extrovert to Thrive in Any Environment.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, so Jeb's book is also an Amazon bestseller. Congratulations, Jeb.
Thank you.
So I'm super excited that the three of us could find some time today to get together and give this podcast a try. I know the three of us have this yearning, urge, desire, whatever you want to call it, to help introverts succeed and adapt to this extroverted world. Especially all three of us living here in North America. The emphasis is on extroversion. It's in our books, TV shows, movies, it's kind of everywhere. Little do you know, though, a lot of those so-called extroverts are actually introverts in disguise. Through time, they've developed the ability to change themselves, create more of a hybrid concept, hence the name of this podcast. There is a concept or a word for that. It's called ambivert. So it's very similar to the word ambidextrous, which just means left hand and right hand. You can use them equally well. So ambivert is just someone who could use introvert and extrovert personalities equally well. So it's a new label, not a new personality type or a new concept. It's been around forever. And it's not one or the other. It's a little bit of both. So many of you listening or watching today may feel the same way. And the point here is to help shine a light in the topic and help you bridge the gap, so to speak. So we're going to talk about what the concept is, why it matters to you, and then we're going to move on and talk about kind of our backgrounds, our journey, just to give you an idea of where we came from. And hopefully you can relate a bit to that. And, we're going to talk about where we're going to take you next, what to expect in this podcast, and talk a little bit about the community that we're building. So let's start with Edwin there. Walk us through what introvert means to you and kind of how it's impacted your life.
Thanks, Vitri. It's a great introduction. Being an introvert means, for me anyways, that I get a lot of my energy more from the one-on-one type of stuff as opposed to being around big groups. And yet a lot of the impacts that I have in the world, whether it's through working with charities or through my work, being at school with my kids, is about having a broader influence than just one or two people at a time. And so for me, starting in the world a long time ago in the financial planning world, being able to talk to big groups was the important part, was being able to teach. And so learning the skills to have that, for me, influence, being able to make a difference and share my ideas and help people become smarter in their financial decisions, working with charities. I work a lot with young kids in different charities like Big Brothers Big Sisters. To me, that's the big, being able to have more skills, more tools. In for me, that's been the important part and the motivation for me to both get together with Vitri to write the book and to come on the podcast and talk about it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all comes down to connecting and relating, right? Meeting people where they're at and hopefully building that bridge so that you can have your concepts come through and kind of learn what they're all about and lend any help that you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeb, any thoughts on that?
Just what does introvert mean to me? Edwin did a really good job there of the explanation. For me, maybe I just add, it kind of has a little bit to do with stimulation level almost. I've always found that some of the people I know who are more extroverted, they can just socialize for hours, and it actually seems like recharging a battery, right? They're just getting more and more and more energy the more they're socializing. And I am just the opposite, right? It's like looking at your smartphone and you're down to 3 bars, 2 bars, 1 bar. Like, oh, I have to go back to my hotel room. I'm thinking of situations where I've been at conferences or things, and there's a whole lot of socializing going on. I just disappear all of a sudden, right? I need to go back to my my room for 30 minutes just to decompress before I can go back out to do more socializing. And one of the misconceptions is people think that introverts don't like socializing, or they think that maybe we're not adept at socializing. And that could be true for some people, but I've never felt that was that true for me. The main thing was just, man, I find socializing exhausting, right? I need it, it does not recharge me, it drains me, and I need to disappear to recharge before I can do it again.
Yeah, so I mean that's a very common theme with a lot of introverts is you're working so hard to try to project this personality, be relatable. But I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but over time, I've noticed that my energy levels have changed, whereas it used to take a lot of effort. I guess with practice and whatnot, it's kind of become second nature. It's once you take your eyes off yourself and you start focusing on the other party, learning about what they're going through and their situation, that's actually energizing.
Yeah, that is quite similar to what I found. The more you do something, uh, the less it's going to, let's say, overstimulate you, right? Like it kind of becomes more of a normal thing. So sometimes behaving like, being able to behave like an extrovert, it just took a little bit of practice, right? And the more I did it, the more maybe endurance, if you want to think about it that way, like social endurance that I was able to build up, so that I was able to do it for a couple more hours before I got drained. And you also made a good point there. Sometimes it's just some introverts, myself included anyway, I can have a lot of focus on my own internal experience, my own internal thoughts, and all of that can cause some anxiety and cause me to be drained. But if I change my frame of mind so that I'm focusing on curiosity and learning about every new person that I'm meeting, then suddenly because I'm a very curious person, suddenly my desire to learn more about everybody almost overrides my exhaustion from the social experience.
Part of that as well is just I've become a little smarter about managing that situation. So when I'm in, at a big conference, for example, I don't get cornered into a 10-way conversation with 9 other people. I'm better at steering myself away to these one-on-ones, one-on-two conversations, and exactly what you just said, Jeb. Like being curious is a huge part of that. And then I can last a lot longer. I've done the same thing, skip off to my hotel room or go for a quick walk outside with, say, one person just to get a break from the chaos or what I perceive as chaos. So yeah, that's totally true.
Like when you focus on the other people and you're asking questions, that is really extroverted type of stuff, right? You become a lot more interesting. Any other things you've done, Edwin, in that type of situation that's helped you out?
Yeah, like and it's actually something that talking with Beatrice a long time ago, is just having more scripts in my own head, so I'm more prepared for having that conversation. I've planned ahead, which is something that I'm good at, and so I know where I want to go. I know what I'm trying to learn from someone, and that just makes it I'm more comfortable then. I don't feel so overwhelmed with the small talk or the whatnot. It's just easier to flow when I already have things pre-planned.
I really like that recommendation.
What about now that hybrid self-concept? I mean, your book is titled that, so why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Well, when I decided to write this book, I was thinking of my own life experiences, and there's been a lot of situations in life where I felt like my natural introverted tendencies weren't giving me the advantage, let's say, in that certain situation. And I would think to myself, oh man, I wish I was an extrovert right now. But then there's other cases in my life where I'm like, oh, I'm glad I'm an introvert right now. I'm seeing situations where the extroverts around me are struggling, and I'm seeing that myself and the other introverts I know, we seem to be thriving. And then it kind of became obvious that, well, of course, life throws different situations at all of us. And the best way to thrive in a world that is, becoming increasingly, I would say, diverse in terms of the expectations that is placing on all of us, whether that's in our personal or professional environments, right? And I said, okay, I want to learn how to switch with some kind of agility between introverted traits and extroverted traits, right? Depending on the situation I'm in. So that's kind of what the hybrid self-concept meant to me, trying to get the best of both worlds and being flexible enough, like you've made the comparison of being ambidextrous, right? Use your left hand, use your right hand, depending on the situation. It's kind of like that, right? Use your introverted skills, use your extroverted skills. And depending on what your natural tendency is, you're going to have to put some practice at developing, the suite of skills that aren't maybe your natural preference. But with practice, I truly believe everybody can develop competency at both the things we typically consider to be introverted and the things we typically consider to be extroverted, as well as developing the self-awareness to know which one is the most advantageous in any situation.
I was just thinking, like, even just, you use the word advantageous, but even just, appreciated, understanding the context of where other people are at, being able to meet them where they're at. When I'm at certain places with certain people and they're a bunch of extroverts, I know that it's easier for them if I can meet them in that kind of mood and that kind of framework and that kind of busyness, and I frame it as busyness that's going on, and then they're more comfortable, right? And I can do that for a bit. I can exercise that muscle, and then I can also notice, the person that's on the side that's slightly uncomfortable, and I can, engage with them in their world as well, and just being sensitive to, hey, you want to, go over here, or you want to, go outside and sit on the patio where it's a little quieter for a bit and have that conversation. And little do they know that I'm also, doing it for myself, but, I can see it in them, just more situational awareness by having both the right and the left, by having both the introvert and extrovert side.
That's a really good point. Actually, it helps you build bridges to more diverse set of people.
Yeah, the situational awareness is something that's taken me a long time to develop, because I jumped in this journey. I kind of jumped to extrovert instead of trying to add pieces and make it a hybrid thing. I just decided to try to switch, and that didn't work too well. And in future episode, we'll talk about kind of going too far, and that makes you a bit of a weirdovert. So yeah, no, I think it's good that we embrace our introversion as well as embrace pieces of extroversion. And like you said, Jeb, just whatever works at that time, use the right skills, and be aware of the situation so that you know what skills those are. Like you said, there's some situations that introverts will handle a lot better, and there's situations where extroverts will handle a lot better. So it's having both sets of tools at your disposal, and that'll get you a lot further ahead in life, in business, in relationships, you name it. Edwin, have you noticed that your change has led you, up the career path?
Oh, absolutely, in so many different ways. Like, I'm more comfortable now in front of large groups. Like you guys were talking about, it's a muscle that I've developed. When I first started in the financial planning world, I was teaching classes, and I remember, teaching 15 minutes out of a 2.5 hour class. My boss let me teach 15 minutes, and it was exhausting, and I was so stressed, and I practiced forever for 15 minutes. And then it became half an hour, and now I do the whole 2.5 hour classes without even thinking about it. And I've actually found a way to make it energizing for myself. And if you had told me that 20 years ago, I don't know that I would have believed you in terms of how easy it is. And my kids have said, Dad, you're just so, I've told them about, learning how to public speak, and, it can get easy. And they're like, Dad, it's easy for you, but it's not easy for us. And I'm like, that's what I was like when I was your age. And so it is a muscle, right? And for me, the public speaking part is what has developed that muscle really, really well. Would I still prefer to have a one-on-one conversation with someone? Absolutely, if you give me my choice. But I can do the other side. I can't teach all day long for 9 hours. That's not going to happen. But 2.5 hour stints, yeah, I can do that now, and it's easy, right?
And I've watched Edwin do those. Edwin teaches a financial planning course, and he is smooth as butter.
Oh, nice.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no, I mean and that's what it's supposed to look like, right? It's supposed to look natural, and with enough practice, anything is natural. We talk about Tiger Woods. He looks like a natural today, but look at the hours and hours of practice he put in to get to that stage. right? That's the stuff people don't see. They just see the finished product and they think, wow, that's a bridge too far. But it's not, and that's what we're here to talk about. Right, Jeb?
Absolutely. It makes me think of one of my favorite quotes from a guy called Miyamoto Musashi. And someone was, he was maybe the best swordsman who ever lived. I don't know, but someone was asking him some of his techniques and he was describing them to them. And somebody said, well, that sounds really difficult. And he said, well, it is really difficult at first, but everything is difficult at first.
Yeah, I think that's the journey part that I think we've all gone through, where, you know, you sometimes see a person and go, oh, that must have been easy for them, but you don't see all the pieces behind it. And I know Vitri really well, and Jeb, I'm just getting to know you, but I know enough to know that, like, none of us started, you know, where we're at today. We started somewhere else. We've got to this point, and we're still all on the same journey, trying to improve and trying to build on you know, the skills that we currently have, because there is no finished product, and there's not even a right finished product. We're all going to have our own ways of doing it. That's why I really like your title, Jeb. Hybrid. That says not perfect. There is no right way for yourself to be. We all have some sort of hybrid, and we're all going to do this in a different way, or experience this in a different way, and live this in a different way. And that's the point, right? We don't need, you know, everybody to be like me or like Jeb or like Vitri. Everybody's got their own thing, and that's the important part to me, the uniqueness.
Perfect. Yeah. So like, we talked a lot about, famous authors who have kind of talked about this concept, and one of them is Dan Pink, and he's got a book dedicated to this topic, and I believe it's called To Sell is Human. Yep. And just talks about every relationship you have, you're selling something, right? You're selling an idea, you're trying to convince someone to do something. And, I think that's at the key of what we're trying to accomplish here. And that's helping, you, the listener, get ahead in whatever you're trying to do. Or, maybe that's trying to get ahead in your career, trying to make the next sale. Maybe it's just trying to work better with your coworkers, maybe managing your manager or other stakeholders, that sort of thing.
Well, and I would even go further, like Dan Pink's book, he talks about it even in the broader context, right? Like, I've got kids. I'm always trying to sell them on the idea of fill in the blank, right? Eat their vegetables, try hard in school, be kind, be friendly. Whether it's other parents, at the school, trying to move the class or something, or whether it's at a charity thing or your church. Like, this is not just about business. This is not just about, money and success. This is about, having an influence and being able to have an influence in as big a realm, or whatever your particular realm is. You don't have to be in sales or business to be on this journey, or to want to change and build and improve who you are. It's much bigger than that, for sure.
Much bigger, right? It goes beyond the self-improvement thing. A person can actually make a pretty strong moral argument, I think, for why you would want to be an influential person, because that is how you're going to make the world a better place, right? You were even
Absolutely.
mentioning talking to, like, your children, or, human beings have a short-term bias, and sometimes if you're one step removed, or even like an adult has a more long-term vision of their child's well-being than the child themselves does, right? So you're trying to use your influence skills to sell them on an idea that is in their best interest, even if that's not one that they would be able to ride to on their own.
That's perfect, guys. Well, we're going to take a break here and come right back with a bit about each of our backgrounds, and hopefully you guys can relate to some of that. Okay, and we're back through the magic of technology. Here we are again. In this section, we're going to talk about, everyone's background and how their journey began, and hopefully that gives you, dear listener, dear watcher, some idea of, we're real people. We're not really extroverts, and here's our journey to this point. So, would love to start with Jeb. Jeb, you've done a lot of public speaking, especially with Toastmasters. You've done some competitions, and you'll be doing a lot of other public speaking opportunities in the future. But you didn't always start out that way, right? You weren't always that smooth, that talented. Can you give us a sense of your background and your journey to this point today?
Yeah, absolutely. So like a lot of introverts, I really liked to read, right? I was reading a lot of books. I liked learning about new ideas. And I always wanted to talk to people about the ideas, right? And get some feedback from them. And I got a lot of people mentioned to me that, Jed, you've got a lot of good ideas, but you've got to work on your communication skills a bit, right? They're not coming across clearly, or some of the things you're saying, I think they're coming across wrong, right? And eventually I had that feedback given to me enough times that I said, okay, I should do something about this. And also work was starting to ask that we do presentations at work, talking about the projects we're working on. And I was terrified of that idea. So that was when I decided to join Toastmasters, right? Just to help me improve on some of those communication skills that people had pointed out would be a big benefit for me, and also to help me learn how to give an effective presentation. And what I found happened is that I actually really liked it once I got into Toastmasters. So I thought I was going to just be completely out of my element. And really at the beginning I was, but it's surprising how quick I felt comfortable in that environment. And I was noticing that there was growth happening, and I liked it. And yeah, eventually I didn't want to really speak in the contest, but I was encouraged to, and I said, okay, I'll put together a speech for the contest. And it came over really well, actually. People liked it, and I was surprised by that. So again, I came up with another speech for a contest, and the speech was pretty close to almost what we're talking about now, right? It was about my journey of going from introvert to what I would define myself now as kind of an introvert, or sorry, an ambivert or a hybrid introvert. And that's what the speech was about. And that really resonated with the audience. I had several people come up to me after I had given that speech, telling me they really enjoyed the speech. There were some people who were just there to support other people they knew. They weren't in Toastmasters, but suddenly they wanted to join Toastmasters. And I told them, oh, sure, well, there's lots of different clubs. And they were all like, oh, I want to join the club you're in. I'm like, oh, okay. My speech really did resonate with you. That's awesome. Yeah, and now I don't know, I got a feeling from that I don't get from very many things, where I could make a difference to help other people overcome some of the challenges, or some of the things that might be holding them back from living the best version of their life, right? And if I can help other people learn from some of the things I've learned from, then that's great. It's really fulfilling.
Any tips on overcoming that initial hesitation, stepping outside your comfort zone?
I was lucky in that I had a very supportive environment in my Toastmasters club. So I almost didn't come back after the first meeting, because the first time I showed up, it just happened to be the annual club contest. So I didn't know that, right? But so what I saw was the best speakers in Toastmasters all giving speeches that they had practiced for probably 3 months to 6 months, right? Some people take the contest very seriously. So I saw, the creme de la creme, basically, of Toastmasters, and it confirmed all my worst fears, that this was a place for people who are already naturally gifted at speaking, and I don't belong here. But the VP of education, that's one of the members of the Toastmasters Club, she reached out to me after I didn't come back and asked me why. And I was very honest. I said, I'm pretty intimidated. And then she explained the situation to me. So I didn't know until she explained it to me. I'm like, yeah, that is not the normal situation. She said, actually, next week, somebody is giving their icebreaker speech. Some Toastmasters, that's actually the first speech you give, which is basically introducing yourself to the club and kind of communicating to them why you have an interest in Toastmasters. Pretty basic. You don't have to do any research on the speech because the topic is you. And she said, you'll get to see what a brand new member is like. So I was encouraged. I went back, I heard them speak, and I said, okay, I could do that. That is not intimidating. I'm still impressed they got the courage to go up there and do it. Now I want to go up there and do it and see if I've got what it takes. And once I did it, it kind of got a little, I don't know, bug inside me or something, right? Just like I kind of got hooked on it. And I said, okay, well now I want to give a second speech and a third speech, and I was seeing improvement. And the whole thing about the fear of public speaking, right?
Yeah.
Fear and excitement are kind of very similar emotions, and just with the right change of your frame of mind, you can get exhilarated by public speaking instead of frightened by it.
What did you see right away in terms of your work life and whatnot from, like, how did that change work into the rest of your life?
Well, one of the immediate changes that I noticed is that I was just a lot more confident even. I don't know why, but it helped me start to do basic stuff like make eye contact with people and hold it properly. I mean, I wasn't even very good at that, right? I was your typical really introverted guy who just wanted to sit behind my computer all the time. And when someone came to talk to me, like, yeah, like I guess. And I'm not trying to poke fun at anybody out there who might be in that situation, because I was that guy too, right? But I don't think there's very many people who would argue that that's probably not the best way to be if you have any kind of ambitions or aspirations for, let's say, leadership or management, or if you just want to influence the people around you, even for their own best interest, right? Then you need to learn some skills to be a more effective communicator, more influential.
Well, I can't tell the difference between what, you look so natural right now. It's hard for me to imagine that you used to be that person.
I've been doing Toastmasters since 2009, or maybe 2008. So that's 12 or 13 years. So yeah, it doesn't happen overnight, but like I think we all would agree, if you consistently practice something for 10 plus years, there will be a noticeable difference. It doesn't even take that long, right?
So for those extreme introverts out there, you're saying there's a chance.
There's more than a chance. I'd say it's inevitable as long as you keep with it. Edwin, how do you feel about that? Like, what got you really interested in trying to become a hybrid introvert?
Thanks, Jeb. In the beginning, it was a matter of necessity. Working as a financial advisor, part of that is trying to get new clients, and the way that my boss did it was through teaching classes. And I found that, I had better get good at teaching classes and being able to relate and communicate. And so I did the same thing. I started into Toastmasters and started practicing a lot. And I found that the more I was able to do those things, communicate well, speak well, the more success that I had. And when you're married and you're starting to have kids, that's a pretty big motivation to improve and change. And I also found that the more I did that, the more I got better at it, the more influence I started having in other areas in my life as well. I got heavily involved with the charity Big Brothers Big Sisters, and just I have passion for helping kids and young people, and I wanted to work and share my ideas and make a difference. And the better I got at the communication side of things, and the more comfortable I got in terms of talking with people, the more influence I had and the bigger the difference that I was making. And it just kind of snowballed. I started this back in like 2002. So I would say, the same thing. Back in 2002, I certainly was not, who I am today. And it is a long-term journey that, you just kind of builds on itself, and you have some successes, and you just start, kind of building on it and building on it and building on it. And then you become a bit of a different person. Like, it's not that I'm faking it or trying to be somebody I'm not. I am who I am, and who I am has fundamentally changed. And I think that's what I like about it, is I still have those same introverted roots, in that I still really enjoy, less stimulation, in terms of just, I'd still rather just have a conversation with one or two people, as opposed to, being at a big party. But I can do it, right? And I can do it for longer periods of time. And I find that there's a time and a place for that. One of the most interesting parts, and I got to know Vitri playing ultimate frisbee back in the day, and he was organizing and coordinating it, and we got to know each other and got to be friends. And our book came from a conversation that we both had, which was like Vitri was telling me a story about one of his coworkers saying, "Oh, I wish I was an extrovert like you are." And Vitri says to her, "No, actually, I'm an introvert." And so Vitri was telling me that story, and I kind of was chuckling, and I was like, "Well, that's my story too." And Vitri thought I was an extrovert, but I'm not either. And so we started this dialogue about, who we used to be and who we have become and who we are in different, scenarios. And Vitri and I know each other in group settings where we can put on that extrovert hat. And so, as Vitri and I got to know each other, it was just interesting how our stories paralleled in terms of, where we started and where we've ended up. We've done it differently. We've got different skills within that. But it's interesting how the journey is still there for us. And it's a continuous journey. And so Vitri is one of the most interesting people that I know, and why I loved the idea of writing a book with him and got to know him better through that book. But Vitri, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and where you've come from and how you've gotten to this hybrid self, this ambivert place?
Thank you, Edwin. But my story is a little bit different because I never wanted to be an introvert. Like, I started out going through life, and then you get to high school and you're like, wow, there are some people who are really good with people. Other kids really like them. Even the teachers and the principal love these people. And I was like, okay, well, that's what I want to be. I want to be an extrovert. Forget this introvert crap. And I tried for the next 10 years after that to get rid of my introvert side and add or become an extrovert, which is completely the wrong way to do it. As I can tell you from personal experience, you don't want to do that because you overdo it. You become too extreme, and you do things that you think extroverts do that they actually don't do. So, one of those things, and Edwin and I talked about this, is cockiness, right? So we mix up confidence for cockiness, and they're two totally different things. I was cocky because I thought that was confidence, but it wasn't after you examine it, because cockiness drives people away and confidence attracts people. So, I was headed down the wrong path for many years, but I must have done something right, because like you said, Edwin, that when I was a mortgage broker, one of the ladies there said, they wish they were extroverted like me because they believe they could be a really good mortgage broker if they were. And, that kind of floored me, because for the last 10 years before that point, that was what I was trying to be. So I didn't know that I had succeeded. And then, of course, being naturally introverted, that kicked off this whole couple of years of self-introspection and navel gazing and asking you questions, and the genesis for our book. But as an aside, if you're introverted, don't become a mortgage broker. It's one of the hardest things you'll do right off the bat. So get to ambivert first, then do mortgage brokering. It's right below politician and realtor for how extroverted you have to be to succeed in those careers. So a total aside there, career tip for some of you, and you might be wondering, that's why I'm not succeeding, because careers like that are sales based, and sales is all about connection and relating with people. But yeah, so that's kind of where we all came from. I'm out here in Vancouver, British Columbia, more a suburb, Surrey, BC. Edwin, you're in Langley, or what would you call that? Fort Langley?
Yeah, Fort Langley area, just a little bit further east than where Vitri is, but still in the greater Vancouver area.
And even more east and north is Jeb?
Edmonton, Alberta.
There you go. I had thought when you initially reached out that you were over in Nova Scotia.
Oh, right. Yeah, because I think I'd mentioned in my book maybe that was the story I just told, actually, about the Toastmasters Club, right? That was in Nova Scotia. I lived in Halifax for a couple of years. Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take another short break here and come back with kind of a roadmap and where we're going to take you with this podcast and what you can expect in your own journey. Okay, welcome back. That was great to hear your background and Jeb's background, and learning more about what you guys came from. Edwin, as you went through your journey and talking to someone who might be just at the beginning of their own personal journey from introvert to ambivert or this hybrid introvert self, what can they expect?
Well, I think the biggest thing you can expect is that it's going to be a bit of work. It's not simple. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. But it does take steps, and it's a bit, one of those things like 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes, and you're working on it. One of the things that hopefully we're trying to accomplish, or one of the reasons that we're all doing this, is we kind of just did our journeys with some help and some, we read our different books, or we had different people that influenced us. But I think we're all hoping to help make the journey a little bit easier in terms of, here's some of the things you can expect, here's some of the things you can try, here's some of the things you can do, because it is going to be a process. There's no finished product. There's nothing necessarily wrong with where you're at today. It's just about moving the needle, a little bit forward, bit by bit, and that's hopefully what, that's how I see it, and that's why I'm here. That's why I helped write the book with Vitri, and that's why I'm having this conversation with these guys and sharing our ideas. Vitri, how do you see it? How do you see the journey playing out for people?
Well, for me, I started off, I guess I'm going to say, a lot further back than you did. I had a lot of personal development to do. I was kind of a jerk. I thought much more of myself than I actually was, and kind of acted that way towards people. And as you heard last session, there was that cockiness about me for no good reason. Like, I had nothing to be cocky about. So I had to actually read a lot of books. So a lot of those self-improvement things that anyone would recommend, like I had to go through that. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. The old version, like the original version, still the best version, even though 1920s, the story's a little outdated, but the principle's still the same. I had to go through that book quite a bit. Like I had to buy 2 copies because I wore out my first copy, right? But what I experienced, and what other people might experience as well, is expect a lot of failure and embarrassment. But bounce back, right? That's why I needed the personal development books, is because I needed to bounce back. I was terrible at a lot of things, and it kind of led me to create a model, and Edwin, we did a talk on this, is preparation, action, and review, right? As introverts, we're really good with preparation and we're really good with review. We don't always get the action quite right, but if we do all 3 things, it'll come. Right. So, I had to learn to be prepared going into meetings, going into stuff like this podcast, because I needed that. That was me harnessing my introverted side to be more extroverted. Right? It sounds a bit weird, but it does work. Harness your preparation, your ability to really examine things, and you can use that to simulate extroversion at the beginning, and then after that, it'll be more natural. But definitely expect a lot of the embarrassment, and just know it's okay. And what really helped me get my mind around the fact that it's okay to embarrass myself is the fact that nobody actually cares, right? So everyone's kind of in their own zone, thinking about themselves. And if you embarrass yourself, you're the only one that actually knows you did that. Everyone else is like, whatever. It's kind of weird, but okay, whatever. And then they're back to their phone, right? So it's totally okay to go try some things. From my point of view, what someone's journey might look like when you're just starting out. Jeb, anything to add to that?
Wow, you guys said a lot of really good stuff. I like what you said. I think maybe I'll just reframe it. I don't know if I'm saying anything new here, but for me, it was just a lot of practicing different kind of behaviors and different kind of frame of mind, right? And knowing that at first maybe it would seem a little performative, but that's only a phase, right? I kind of think of comfort zone. I'm thinking of like a circle in my head, right? And then you can think of traits that are outside your comfort zone. Maybe there's like concentric circles, like bigger, bigger, bigger. Like the weirder or more different it is from who you are, it's kind of like the 2 circles out, 3 circles out, whatever. I always try to keep this in mind and just force myself to go to the 1 circle outside my comfort zone. And I find that when you do that over time, then you notice that that is now part of your comfort zone. And then it's like, oh, well, great, my comfort zone just got bigger, but I'm not going to stop now. It's a process of continual improvement. Now I'm going to go to the next outside circle, and I'm going to start acting in those kind of behaviors or those kind of thoughts until that also becomes my comfort zone. So there was a bit of pushing myself, right? In terms of Toastmasters, I signed up basically for every contest. Even if I didn't feel confident, I said, no, it's another chance to practice and to hold myself to a higher standard. I'm going to do it. I started going to more networking events, more social meetups. Even if I felt like I didn't want to do it, I still went out and did it, which to me is what self-discipline is all about, right? People sometimes think, oh, I'll work out when I feel like it. Well, if you talk to anybody who's in real great shape and ask them, do you always want to work out? Well, no, but I just do it anyway, right? That's part of it, right? Passion, it's great to feel passionate about what you want to do, but passion can only take you so far. There's always going to be days where you don't feel passionate about it, and that's where you need self-discipline to go, I'm going to do it anyway. And generally speaking, once you start it, you get into it. Having a mentor is also helpful. So Toastmasters was good at having a mentor. So that really helped me with my development. And sometimes you just need somebody else's outside opinion just to know that you're on the right path, right? For myself anyway, I can sometimes have this bit of doubt. Or go, oh, what if I'm practicing the wrong way? What if I'm doing the wrong thing? What if this is just a waste of my time and I'm not going to get to where I want to go by going down this path? And all I really need is somebody who's already there to tell me, you're doing fine, Jeb. You're not wasting your time. This is the right path. Just keep at it. And that just totally reframes it. It restokes my commitment to developing myself. Yeah, I also tried to make friends with more extroverted people. I guess there was a point there where I was very introverted and all my friends were very introverted. We just did our introverted things, right? We would play computer games with each other over the modem or whatever, or board games or very introverted things. And I said, you know what, I'm going to start trying to make friends with the extroverted people and just hanging around them, seeing what they're doing, not necessarily copying their behaviors, but seeing what parts of their behaviors I could incorporate into my own personality, ones that aren't going to seem completely foreign, and say, oh no, he's doing this, and I could actually do that. I just didn't think about that. But with a little practice, that becomes more natural as well.
I think the journey's worth it, and that's the big part, right? Is having kind of that bigger picture, because you're not going to feel like doing it every time, and you're going to fail, like Vitru's talking about, and there's going to be mistakes. But we can all attest to the fact that, improving yourself, becoming more influential, making a difference in a bigger space, it's all worth it at the other end. And so it's a journey, but having that bigger picture, is important.
Fantastic summary. Edwin's got it right there.
Yeah, no, that's, why don't we end it there, because that's a great way to do that. Yeah, so we're actually, just like Edwin said, we're going to, talk about giving you the actual tools, the mental tools, the framework to, go on your journey, do things well. Jeb said we're going to talk about how to deal with extroverts. We're actually going to interview 1 or 2 extroverts on the channel here and, get their input and see what how the other side views us. We're going to talk about how you overcorrect and what to do when you do that. And that was me for 10 years. I lived on that entire side. We call that weirdovert. So that's already been copyrighted. So any of you guys out there. Yeah. And then, you know what? Not everyone has the ability to get a mentor, but that's okay. What we're doing here is we're trying to create a community. Right. So, if anyone who's listening to this is interested, comment, reach out, let us know what you think, get in touch, get out there, try some stuff, learn more, and just let us know how your journey goes.
Absolutely. Great summary, Vitru.
Fantastic.
Super. Yeah, I had a lot of fun too. And I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to the next one.